Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. On this video, my group will present about the topic of non-completion. My name is Ahmad Azman bin Azmi and my group members is Firas Najmi bin Muhammad Noor and Muhammad Haris bin Hasan. Introduction of non-completion. The contractor is responsible to complete the works within the contract period or extended time granted by him. If the contractor fails to complete the works by the date for completion stated in the contract document or within any extended time, the SO shall issue the certificate of non-completion. It is a breach of contract on the part of the contractor. The contractor responsible for the loss of damage suffered by the government or client. Government or client has the right to impose liquidated and ascertained damages or LAD. LAD is intended to be the estimated damages that will be incurred because of delay to the works for which the contractor is responsible. Okay, we will look about the non-completion based on the PWD Form 203A and PAM 2018. PWD 203A Clause 33.0 Deduction from money due to the contractor. When the contractor failed to complete the work within time according to the contract, he shall be entitled for LAD for his failure in order to responsible for the damages suffered by the government or client. The SO need to issue the certificate of non-completion to the contractor. PWD 203A Clause 40.0 Damages for non-completion. Clause 40.1 states straight to the point where the SO or superintendent officer shall issue certificate of non-completion to the contractor if the contractor fails to complete the works as agreed in date for completion from the contract document. Clause 40.2 states the government has right to terminate the contract when the SO issues the certificate of non-completion. The government need to recover all the losses because of this breach of contract. Liquidated ascertained damages is the mechanism where the contractor needs to follow to pay the losses towards the government. The LAD is paid per day. The period for LAD starts from issuance of certificate of non-completion until the issuance of certificate of practical completion or the date of termination. If the contractor fails to pay the LAD, SO shall deduct the money from the performance bond or the contractor and need to inform the contractor in writing. Clause 40.3 states the LAD as stated in Appendix 1 need to be reasonable amount where it covers the amount of loss. The contractor that signed the letter of acceptance are considered agree the amount as stated in Appendix 1 without the government need to prove the actual damage or loss. Clause 40.4 states that the contractor still has the obligation and responsibility to finish the works as stated in contract, although the contractor is issued the LAD. PAM 2018. In the PAM form, there is a clause that can revoke the certificate of non-completion. Under clause 23.4 to 23.9 and 23.10, which has effect of fixing the completion date, will be valid to revoke the CNC. Then the contractor can get back the amount of LAD that have been paid to employer in the period of honoring certificate starts from the latest date of extensions of time. Therefore, the contractor still did not complete the works. The architecture shall issue another certificate's non-completion.
Okay, thank you Azman for the explanation. So I would like to continue the presentation about preparation and submission of certificate of non-completion. Okay, some basic rules must be complied within the preparation of certificate of non-completion. All particulars in the certificate must be correctly inserted. Particulars of the contract and the contractor inserted in the certificate must be the same as those in contract document. No space allowed for insertion in the certificate except the date of the same shall be left blank. The date of the certificate shall be the date on which the officer empowered to do so signed the certificate. The period of coverage of the insurance policies must be extended to the expected date of completion of the work. Okay, next, the particular of the contract and other information must be on a standard form when submitting the certificate of non-completion. A statement by the recommending officer as to whether he has studied the circumstance of this case in depth and assessed the ability of the contractor to proceed and complete the work, and whether in his opinion imposition of LAD will ensure completion of work the soonest and his reason for taking so. A description of the progress of work achieved by the contractor and the work program of the balance of work may be completed. Information whether there has been any cause of delay for which government to be responsible for, and if so, whether a reasonable extension of time has been granted, and whether there is any foreseeable cause of delay for which the government may be responsible. Only the officer empowered, for instance, superintendent officer, can approve the certificate of non-completion. After approval, the original copy must be sent to the contractor by AR registered post. A copy of the certificate of non-completion must be distributed to the parties listed for distribution in the certificate. Okay, next, let's take a look for the procedure for certificate of non-completion. Okay, there are some steps for the procedure of non-completion between the superintendent officer and contractor. Step 1. Warning letter to the contractor on issuance of certificate of non-completion and liquidated and ascertained damages. Action by superintendent officer. Warning letter, known as certificate of non-completion, will be issued to the contractor for late completion. Thus, liquidated and ascertained damages will be imposed. Okay, step 2. Prepare certificate of non-completion. Action by superintendent officer. Make sure the latest form JKR 203A is used, such as form JKR 203A 2010. Complete the form and make sure all the information is correct. Okay, step 3. Verify the certificate of non-completion. Action by contractor. Before issuance of the certificate of non-completion, contractor need to check the details and the purpose to make sure the issuance is valid. Okay, step 4. Issue the certificate of non-completion. Action by the superintendent officer. When the date of completion exceeded and the work has not fulfilled the practical completion, superintendent officer issue the certificate of non-completion to avoid time extension. Superintendent officer need to make sure all related performance bond and insurance policies are submitted and still valid. Superintendent officer issue the instruction to contractor to extend the validity of the insurance policies and performance bond if necessary. Okay, step 5. Impose liquidated and ascertained damages. Action by superintendent officer. The government will be impose LAD when certificate of non-completion is issued. It is to ensure that LAD is deducted in the net interim payment certificate. If the payment is sufficient, due to the contractor to cover the amount of LAD, form bond is used to recover the LAD. Please consider whether there are sufficient ground to determine the employment of the contractor. Okay, last step, which is step 6, inform contractor on amount of deduction of LAD. Action by superintendent officer. When LAD imposed, superintendent officer inform the contractor stating the amount of deduction of LAD. Okay, next, damages for non-completion. Okay, for the liquidated and existing damages according to clause 40.2 PWD 203A 2010. The contract has expressed provision for liquidated and existing damages for non-completion. For instance, the contractor is liable in damages for late completion. The sum must be stated in the appendix as shown in the contract, so the contractor is made aware of the financial implication of delay. It can be given as rate per day, rate per week, and other related to LAD. If entry in appendix is left blank or inserted as nil, LAD is not recoverable. The sum is considerable agreed by the parties as the contractor tenders with the knowledge of it. Okay, also liquidated and existing damages, but different clause, which is clause 40.3. When the amount of damages is fixed, the contractor then doesn't have the option to claim damages measured by the amount of loss known as unliquidated damages. Liquidated and existing damages is a predetermined sum of money to be paid as compensation if a breach actually takes place. His predetermined sum could save time and money on arbitration and litigation to decide on the amount of loss when the breaches occur. The sum must be reasonable and genuine pre-estimate of the damage likely to be sustained. The sum will be a penalty if the amount is excessive and bear no relation to the possible actual damages suffered by the employer. Failure to challenge its reasonableness by the contractor doesn't mean that the amount is reasonable.
Computation of LAD based only on the loss of income by the employer. This method is normally applicable to small projects that provide revenue to the employer. The damages may be taken as equal to the estimated amount of rental of the building for the rental rate to be based on market rate at the time the work is expected to be completed. For example, assumption rental rate 3,000 per month, period of delay 10 days, rate of LAD are at 30,000 divided by 30 days equal to 1,000 per day. Amount of liquidated damages RM 1,000 times 10 days equal to RM 10,000 ringgit. The rate RM 1,000 per day should be inserted in the appendix to condition of contract before signing of contract document. The amount to be deducted from interim payment for LAD is 10,000 ringgit. The estimated income from the business to be conducted in the building is a reasonable amount of profit or income that the contractor expects to make out of his business. This is a bit difficult to establish and subject to much argument. Based on all factors that contribute to the total loss incurred by the employer. This is normally applicable to the project that provide revenue to the employer. This is more comprehensive method and include such factors as follows. Financing charges. Finance charges by way of interest on money expended, such as the cost of loan for extended period. The rate of interest is that actually paid by the contractor provided it it is not reasonable or it is not calculated on the basis that it is charged on the contractor's bank. Loss of income. Loss of rental income since the income which the contractor would otherwise has earned but for the delay or disruption, it applies only to income normally to be expected for loss of income from interest on capital, which he is not free to invest as a result of delay and loss of income from productivity. Prolongation costs. This includes site management costs, general overheads, and costs to pay third parties, such as compensation due to late handling over. Based on the cost of providing finance for the contractor works. This method is normally applicable to non-making profit concerns, such as for projects that do not provide revenue to the employer, such as schools, mosques, and so on. It is difficult to determine what the real damage is. That is a good reason for liquidating the damages. The percentage of LAD can be determined by prime rate 365 days. The prime rate may be obtained from any commercial bank in the area where the project is situated. For example, assumption, prime rate 10%, contract sum 10,000, period of delay 20 days, percentage of liquidated damages equal to 10 divided by 365 days equal to 0.0273% per day. Amount of liquidated damages 0.0273% times 10,000 times amount of liquidated damages 0.0273% times 10 million time 20 days equal to 45,600 ringgit Malaysia. This percentage of 0.0273% per day should be inserted in the appendix to the condition of contract before signing of contract document. The amount to be deducted from payment of LAD is 45,600 ringgit Malaysia. Deduction for LAD. According to 40.2, payment of LAD may be made by the deduction by the SO in the interim and final payment certificates. If necessary, the employer may deduct the amount from performance bond. Then, if it is inadequate, the employer may recover the money as a debt. The contractor should know all deductions made by the SO for LAD payment. Checklist Certificate of Non-Completion. Refer from PWD 203A. This is the appendix.
Okay, that's all from us. Thank you.